Are you a host? Okay, go ahead.
All right, welcome everybody to today's CCP meeting. We'll get started with a call to order and a roll call, please, Lupita.
Member Evans,
Present. And I'll just note, I see Carlene Jakowski in the attendees.
Okay, then let's give it about 10 more seconds just to get Carlene in.
And Nolan just hopped in. Sorry, Clark.
Good, and then Rocio's here as well, so it looks like.
okay, let me start all over with roll call. Remember Evans,
Present.
remember Jakowski,
Here.
remember Davis,
Present.
thank you. Remember Lewis is absent. Board member Miller, Chief, he said he was going to be absent as well as member Olson, correct?
Yes.
Board member Raven,
Here.
member Sullivan,
Here.
member Valdez is absent. Member Vega
Present.
and member Villegas
Present.
and member Prudnick.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll take a quick moment here to introduce John Rowe. I don't know if John, if you can potentially come on. There you go. Perfect. John is our new management analyst assigned to the CCP. John is originally from the Monterey Bay area and moved to Yolo County in 2009 to attend UC Davis, where he obtained his degree in political science and his master's in business administration. He was previously employed with Placer County as a clerk with the Placer County Superior Court and worked here in Yolo County as a legal clerk and office support specialist in the DA's office until 2017. He recently returned to county employment in January of this year as an accountant working on the American Rescue Plan before being promoted to the position of management analyst. So John will be working with us closely to help us with all things CCP related. We welcome him and we're excited to have you, John. I don't know if you would like to say anything, but you can if you want to, but no pressure.
Yeah, thanks for the introduction, Chief. And I've met a few of you already, but for anyone who I haven't met, pleased to meet you. And I'm looking forward to working together with you all going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is agenda item number 3. Consider approval of the agenda. Hopefully everyone's had an opportunity to look at it. And if so, if there's no questions, can I get a motion to approve?
Sullivan will motion. Second.
First by Nolan,
Second by Raven.
second by Raven. Can we get a quick roll call vote for approval, please?
Member Evans.
Aye.
Member Jakowski,
Aye.
member Davis,
Aye.
member Lewis,
Aye.
member Miller is absent. Member Olson is also absent. Member Raven.
Here.
Member Sullivan,
Yes.
member Valdez, absent. Member Vega,
Yes.
member Villegas,
Yes.
and member Prudnick.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Next up is public comment. It's an opportunity for members of the public to address the CCP on subjects related to CCP business, but not otherwise on the agenda. Do we have any public comment?
No hands raised, Chair.
All right, thank you. Next up is our consent agenda. Unless there are members that would like something removed from the consent agenda, can I get a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda, which is the authorized remote meetings and approve the minutes of August 22nd?
Motion.
First by Ian,
I'll second.
second by Matt. Thank you. We get a vote to approve the consent agenda, please.
Member Evans.
Aye.
Member Jakowski,
Aye.
member Davis,
Aye.
member Lewis,
I'm going to abstain. I wasn't present.
Member Miller is absent. Member Olson is also absent. Member Raven?
Aye.
Member Sullivan?
Yes.
Member Valdez is absent. Member Vega?
Yes.
Member Villegas?
Yes.
Member Fruitnick?
Yes.
Motion passes with one abstention.
Perfect. Number 7, receive verbal update on Adult Day Reporting Center request for proposals. So we got some good news as far as the RFP. After several months of working on it with the ad hoc and others helping out, the RFP is being released today at 3 p.m. It will be posted on the county's BidSync procurement platform, and potential proposers will be notified. Potential proposers were identified by asking other California probation departments who provides their DRC services. Most provide services in-house, so there are few options out there to contract with, but we have notified, or those that are out there will be notified that we've identified. There will be a mandatory pre-proposal conference at the DRC on 9/27. Proposals will be due by 11/4, with scoring expected to be completed by the end of November, followed by a notice of intent to award. And one of the big focuses was performance measures and reporting out, and that'll all be subject to contract negotiations as well. So it's exciting. I know it's a lot of work. Everybody's put a lot of work into it, but it will be released at 3 o'clock today. I don't know if there's any questions or comments or.
Just a comment, Chief, so maybe I missed, or maybe I missed it. Are you anticipating a handful of applicants at this point? I know you were concerned about that going out again. What's your thought about it? Or are you feeling better?
We hope to get a good couple of robust proposals. We've identified a couple of providers throughout the state and country, for that matter. And they will be notified that the proposal or the RFP is going out today. Again, we hope that we'll get a couple of great proposals that we can choose from and go from there.
All right. Thank you.
Something like that is it. Lupita will open this agenda item up to public comment if there's any.
There are no hands raised, Chair.
All right, thank you. Next up, receive verbal update on the Reentry Summit. We held our first Reentry Summit last Friday. Now, it was a fancy title that I came up with to get people to attend the meeting. It was really just a meeting on Friday, but we were calling it a Reentry Summit. It was good. We had probation staff there, Sheriff's Department staff, Public Defender, HHSA, SCOE, Communicare, and others were invited as well, but weren't able to make the date. We're going to have upcoming meetings to plan reentry work and map it out, all the great work that's happening in the county. We spent some time defining the reentry population, and then also we did an exercise in writing down, everyone was there, as far as what their department or agency is currently doing for reentry services. One of our next steps will be to start unsiloing some of those categories and figuring out where a plan of action can occur. We'll also spend some time in upcoming meetings going over what is on the horizon and what different departments and agencies have planned for reentry. Hopefully it'll culminate in a good mapped out reentry plan for the county with identified services amongst all the departments and organizations and CBOs. Etc. Ian, I know you were there. Nolan, you were there. I don't know if there's anything you guys would like to add to it or mention.
I really enjoyed the experience, Chief. I think it was actually nice to get together and just kind of brainstorm and think and kind of dream a little bit and kind of download. So I appreciated the format of the meeting. Your staff were great, well prepared. I like the big butcher paper kind of brainstorm idea. but it felt good. It felt like we were finally getting to a point where, you know, we had some boots on the ground, kind of thinking creatively and thinking about overlap. So I just appreciate the setup for the meeting, and I feel like this is going to be a very fruitful process. And I think maybe the only thing you missed potentially is that we talked about the time frame for this group and kind of the meeting schedule. So and there also were some discussions about really a lot of overlap between the CCP strategic plan, kind of this group, because there is a lot of kind of overlap and synergy there. So I thought it was a great meeting. It was exciting. You did trick us on a Friday afternoon with the title summit, but it's all good. We appreciated it, and you provided candy, so that was helpful. But you might want to talk about the time frame and the meeting cycle, and then the sync up question about strategic plans. But other than that, well done. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we chatted about the timing of everything. It's going to be somewhat labor intensive to really do this and do it right. We were kind of scoping out every 6 weeks or so to every other month to meet. As Nolan was saying, there's a lot of overlap with what CCP is doing, and then reentry, and then the county in general. So we'll get to our next agenda item here shortly, which is strategic planning. And we're going to try to somehow sync some of those sessions up to help guide the strategic plan as well. Some of the strategic plan may very well be, you know, to be determined, or in the next 6 months, et cetera, to kind of make sure that the reentry planning matches up to our CCP outcomes and objectives as well. That was the big news with reentry. I'll open it up to other comments or questions. Scanning boxes. One of the other things we did do is the last phase of that meeting was to identify others that should have been at the meeting, or not that they weren't invited, but just other entities that would help the discussion and be part of it. With that being said, if anyone can think of anybody in the future, just please shoot me an email and say, what about this group or this person or this CBO, et cetera. And we want it all as inclusive as possible to really have the most robust planning possible. Thank you on that. Lapita, is there any public comment on that agenda item?
No hands raised, Chair.
All right, thank you. Which brings us to number 9, further strategic planning, develop outcomes and strategies. In your packet are 2 draft outlines of the 23-25 CCP strategic plan. Attachment A is what staff put together based on public and CCP input. Attachment B is a version that a member of the CCP put together as well. Per our schedule for developing the strategic plan, we set aside time today to work on the outcomes and strategies. Slight modifications, however, have been made to the mission and goals, and Ian has added metrics to his version. At this time, CCP and the public input on any of these components will be welcome. And kind of was trying to figure out the best way to do this. I'll open it up first to the group to just have an overall discussion. If need be, I'll ask Lapita to pull the different versions up on the screen and we can kind of go through them. There's a couple of different ways to look at it. At the last meeting, there was some discussion on potentially keeping the strategic plan a little shorter and briefer and focusing on more of what we do well and focusing on that. There's some other discussion about having a multitude of goals. And so I don't know which way the group, you know, kind of would like to lean on that topic. Any thoughts or suggestions?
I'll just jump in, Chief. In case anyone couldn't figure out who the IE was in the comments, you took away the mystery there. And you know,
Sorry about that.
My thought with the draft, you know, updates that I provided was just to get the conversation going, as Chief was saying, is that, you know, we'd have something to look at and reflect on in today's session. Not, you know, concrete by any means, but you know, when I looked at it over the last, you know, week or so, I look back at the work we've done with the Stepping Up initiative over the last 4 or 5 years from all the different departments, some of the priority gaps and needs. I also looked at our board strategic plan around safe communities and thriving residents, and there, you know, the overlap areas that CCP has, and tried to look at some kind of metrics and some outcomes, some strategies that align with work that's already included in the board strategic plan around those areas that make sense for CCP to focus on, in my opinion, and looked at what that could look like in terms of language for this strategic plan and some metrics of how we would really measure those. And then, you know, also kind of utilize the framework of what the board has done with their strategic plan. Being a lead on a couple of the board items, I think it's been helpful to have metrics that, you know, you're tracking pretty much from the beginning, and have them tied specific to strategies and tactics, so that you know, whatever work group or whatever, you know, entity is kind of responsible for moving those forward and tracking those, you know, everyone's on the same page from the get-go about what we're doing, what the effort, you know, revolves around, and how we're going to track if we're making progress in that area. I think we talked, you know, before in previous meetings about we had a good strategic plan last time as a CCP, I think, but it was really broad, and so it's hard to track, you know, what specific efforts tied into each of the different strategies, and, you know, using data to measure our progress there. So that's overall the lens I was looking at it from when trying to throw things, you know, on there. And again, just wanting to get the conversation started and anticipate there being, you know, further edits and conversation that we all have, and, you know, left a few different areas blank where I felt like, you know, I didn't have information to kind of plug in there. So I just left a bunch of kind of question marks and put comments that, you know, there could be a measure around second strikers, but, you know, our agency isn't really involved in those. So, you know, thought that's probably more something for DA, public defender, you know, others to kind of speak to. But thinking back several years ago when we had CSAC present, and I don't know if it's still the case, but I think at that point they had done a presentation saying that, you know, the percentage of second strikers that get a third strike, it affects potentially the funding you get for CCP. So also trying to think of those sort of things, and what kind of base and incentive funding that we get for CCP.
I appreciate that. Others, if there's any comments? Lupita, would you be able to bring up the first version of the staff version? I think it's attachment A, and put it on the screen for us, please. I don't know if this may help with the conversation, being able to see it. When we are looking at this page, if everyone can just kind of briefly scan it, is there anything on here that I guess is a no-go for anybody? I mean, obviously we're going to have to detail things more out a little bit more, and there's going to be further discussion. But I'm just wondering if there's anything just off the top we could eliminate if the group wanted to, or conversely, is there some glaring something that we're missing as well?
Can you I can't see below. Can you shrink it, or yeah, that's good, thanks.
When people are kind of done with that one, we can pull up the second options and look at them as well. One of the, I'll just chat while everybody's looking at it. We did have a discussion last time about the intent of the CCP and the legislation and focusing on the realigned population. One of the things I did like about Ian's version is the increased metrics and reporting out on that defined population being post-release community sentence and 1170 population. And we can look at that here in just a minute. Well, Peter, would you mind switching over to the little,
Is
a
this
lot
the
more.
right one, Chief?
Yep, this is it.
Okay.
Give everybody a chance to look at this, and we'll scroll down a little bit. So with this version, it's a lot of the same things as on the attachment A version. It's just a lot more detailed out. It is a 3-year plan, so we definitely wanted to have things to do. However, it does concern me. I kind of like the idea of focusing on a couple and being masters of them as well, rather than a lot. But I don't know anybody else's thoughts on that. And Phil, please feel free to during this just to chime in with any thoughts either way or a different view.
I think my first observation, Dan, is that I was having a hard time with the first goal and the outcomes and strategies that were linked to that goal. It just didn't necessarily connect or tie in. I think Ian does a good job sort of connecting the dots on his piece there a little bit. And some of his outcomes actually seem a little more geared towards supporting the overall objective of the goal or goal A. I mean, goal B and goal C make sense to me. I think one area, even on goal A, outcome 3, I'm super new to the CCP myself, but I also get the feeling that a lot of folks are also a little confused, even on this committee, what our total purview is, our mission, our goal. You know, maybe there also could be some internal capacity building for this particular group as well to help kind of facilitate our flow a little bit. And it totally could just be me being super new to this group and this process, but I still am a little unclear in my role as a board member exactly kind of what our span of control, purview, and scope is as well. So I don't know if that should be included, shouldn't be included, but I do like Ian's version. I think it's a little more dialed in there. And then, you know, it actually has some measurable outcomes too, which is good.
Well, Peter, do you mind scrolling down to the next page, please?
While people are reading and reviewing too, I'll just add, you might notice I put CCP analyst as a responsible party on every single one of these. I think, you know, I've mentioned it in a few meetings before from my perspective, knowing we've got, you know, the RFP that Dan mentioned is going out today, knowing that we're going into a new 3-year strategic plan, especially if we go with a more built out, robust version like this. Knowing all the stuff happening just in the behavioral health criminal justice world, there's going to be some CalAIM stuff around, you know, reentry upcoming. There's a lot of work around criminal justice behavioral health. And so in my opinion, you know, having a full-time dedicated CCP analyst would make a lot of sense over the next several years, and that they could really be the lead on each of these. Not that they are doing all the work, of course, because they need representation from lots of different departments, but they're the kind of conveners, the owner, the, you know, getting the update data from all the partners that have metrics assigned to those outcomes, you know, if it's their department collecting that information, putting it together in reports for the CCP, but also for the Board of Supervisors. I think there could be a lot of utility and make this a really kind of meaningful and robust plan moving forward over the next several years if we can have the dedicated time. I think one of the things we've struggled with in the past is like, you know, each department gets assigned a few things here and there, and we do our best to move it forward. But part of it was, you know, I think lack of definition and detail in some of the last report, and part of it's just capacity overall. And so, you know, adding some capacity to support this at a system level, knowing we've got, you know, what, 5 county departments involved in this and, you know, some CBOs and stuff. I think that was my my thought, my pitch there for, you know, having a full-time dedicated CCP analyst.
I appreciate the comments for sure. And that could be something we could look at down the road. If there's the level of need and the work, etc. Which, looking at this plan, looks like there could be the work out there, but we'll have to, you know, discuss that as a group at a later date.
Yeah, and if, I mean, I don't mean to beat a dead horse here, and I hear you that there's probably further assessment to do, but I think just in support of what Ian said, I think, you know, we've been looking at HHSA just, you know, separately at how do we build the support structures that we need to truly support the work, because otherwise some of these big deliverables or projects or tasks really get assigned to folks who already have plates that are over full, right, that are overflowing. And to the point of this is involving multiple agencies, crossing multiple sectors, you know, and so just, I think, wanting to support the quality, you know, that we think is needed to support the work of CCP, and also hear what you're saying, Dan, but just wanted to connect it to some larger issues that we're looking at even internally at HHSA, like how do we structurally support the work? And so I think, you know, Ian tried to incorporate that into his feedback, and I just want to echo his comments.
Oh, perfect. Lupita, I think there might be one more page to it. Would you mind scrolling down? There we go. Just so everybody can take a look at it. As you can see, it is fairly heavy on reentry, which is, in my opinion, a good thing. I think that's where we can do a lot of good and continued good and kind of refine what is currently going on. The last bit, excuse me, under the strategies that Ian put, identify the top crimogenic needs for the PRCS and 1170 population, identify their specific needs. I think I like that. One of the things I think the CCP potentially struggles with is when we come up with goals and outcomes and metrics, because again, the legislation was more focused on that group. Our numbers are small in that group. I think by last count, we have something like 60 people on PRCS in the county and 50-ish 1170. So it is a good thing that that population is somewhat small and we can do all this other great stuff with the funding and the group. But I think it kind of convolutes a little bit when the topic of outcome metrics, and there's just so much that we put under the CCP umbrella here locally. So I kind of like some of the strategies and metrics specific to that population of the legislation's intent. That doesn't mean we can't do everything else. We obviously can, but I like the idea of having very, very specific things for that population. Sorry, did someone, I'm scrolling through the boxes here. I don't know if someone, Jonathan, your box looks lit up. I don't know if
Something, I got a beep on my computer.
okay.
Yeah.
No worries. Well, so moving for, well, I guess I'll ask for a public comment right now on this. Lupita, do we have any public comment?
There are no hands raised, Chair.
Is there anything that the group just off the looking at this and just off the top of their head, is any area, are we missing anything glaring in any areas? I mean, we have the population here that it's specific to. We have some preventative type of upstream goals. We have some public safety goals. We have victim support type things. It seems like we're fairly broad and got all our bases covered, but I don't know if anyone can see, just right now. If not, there'll be opportunity in the future. So I think what we'll do is we have a meeting scheduled for September 26th. I think we'll work on refining some of these. We'll have some another look or two at it, and then we'll kind of move forward with these for a vote approval at our next CCP meeting, potentially if we're at that point. In the interim, please continue to look at those, review them, and if there's additions or questions, please reach out to me specifically, just because we have to be careful with not talking amongst each other, etc., for Brown Act compliance. So please don't CC the group or anything, just send it straight to me. Phil, if I don't have that right, please chime in. And then we can kind of go from there, and we'll kind of hopefully approve some of them at our next meeting, and then we'll work on a few of the more measures and all of that good stuff. Unless anyone else has any other comments or another path forward that would be more appropriate.
Chief had a question.
Yes.
As I look at the strategic plan that we just went through and all the ideas that are in here, it seems to me, and I don't have inventory of everything we're currently doing, but it seems to me like some of the stuff that's identified is new, right? And some of the stuff kind of leans into things we're already doing. And I just wondered if, for purposes of sort of reconciling with what we want to do in this next 3-year plan, it might be helpful to take inventory of what we're already doing. Because I mean, just my thought about kind of what the DA is doing on many levels fits in here in ways that could be really helpful or supportive of achieving some of the goals that we've identified. Is that something that we do at some point throughout the course of the 3-year plan, or is that something that would be of value on the front end? And I'm just asking because I don't know, like Nolan said, I mean, some of us are newer to this.
Yeah, that's again kind of the why our strategic plan for the CCP is a little bit more convoluted than it maybe some other ones, because there's so many partners, so many things that the county and the group is already doing. What specifically is under the umbrella of the CCP? But I hear what you're saying. Maybe we can code it somehow. New type of things, future goals, in progress goals, etc. And that way we can kind of get a better picture of, like you said, an inventory of what's currently happening, what would be a true new goal, etc. If I'm picking that up right, Supervisor Bates.
Yeah, and I mean, whether it's true new or already in the works or nearly completed or whatever the case, it would just be helpful to sort of be able to look at it, because there are so many things happening and under different departments for different reasons that fit nicely within what this sort of points to. So anyhow, I'm just asking the question. I don't have the answer, but I was just trying to get my head around how do we reconcile with what we say we want to do in this plan and what's already happening. And that's okay. I mean, if we say what we want to do and it's already happening, bonus for us, right? I mean, that's a plus. That's already in the works, and that's a good thing.
No, it sounds good. I'll meet with some of the staff after this, and we'll come up with a plan to kind of get what you're suggesting, because it makes sense to inventory and make sure we have a whole holistic look at everything and where things can leverage and support each other and all of that good things. Anyone else? Looking at the boxes, don't see any. Well, thanks everybody. We'll see hopefully everybody on the 26th, or we'll continue to finalize our strategic planning process. Thank you.